Just sitting here with my morning cup of cacao. So delicious. And the two little puppy dogs. We're home alone. The house is quiet. Today, we're going to talk about money. Money. You know, when I was younger, I was so shit with money. I even worked 2 jobs. By day, I was like in admin, reception work. And then by night, oh, hey, Lemuria. She's just come to sit on my shoulder. Stop licking. Okay, that's enough. Okay, she wants to hear this story. And on the weekends, I would work in a nightclub or bars or clubs, taverns. For me, that's just was always the way, you know. I was always working from an early age and earning and trying to make money. And, you know, life wasn't handed to me on a silver platter. I had to make my own way through. You know, of course, my parents were there to support me if I ever got in trouble. And trust me, in my early days, I got myself into some trouble. But it was like I didn't care for money, like easy come, easy go. And I'd work 2 jobs, make my money, pay for my living, and then love to party. I had a good time. Until I stopped having a good time. And it was through adversity, actually, that I found myself just really in a shitty predicament. And as a result, I moved back to my hometown, Bundaberg. That's where I'm from. And that's when I fell into accounting at 19. And I started as a receptionist. But this admin role was different from any other role that I had before because, I don't know, there was just something about it that really sparked something inside of me, like the management of the numbers. I love the client interactions. And I originally started accounting, doing summaries. Like, this is before cloud accounting, before, you know, there was computerized accounting systems, but it was mainly for the practices. But before we even put it into the system, we'd have these massive like A3 summary sheets, and I'd literally sit there with client bank statements and I'd be summarizing the transactions under the columns. And that was my first experience with money management, like numbers and money. And then I loved it, right? I don't know, there's just something in numbers that it doesn't lie. Like, you can't, it's just finite. It has an answer. So I fell in love with it, and that's when I then enrolled into my first study, the Diploma of Accounting, and then that's when I learnt T-balances and assets and liabilities and profit and loss and how to do old school accounting, debits and credits. Man, debits and credits, it took ages for it to drop, for it to actually land in how a balance sheet works, trial balance works. But eventually, like, it landed, the penny dropped. But personally, right, when it come to my personal financial management, I was still just surviving, you know, week to week. And, you know, I continued on in my career and I went on to uni, and then I got another accounting role. I left Bundaberg and moved to Brisbane and worked in a mid-tier firm. And the beautiful thing about that role was when I would do the financial reporting for a family group of entities. And I would hand it in for review to the managing partner. And he'd review it. And then he'd come back and he'd just throw it on my desk and say, "It's wrong," and walk off. Now, at the time, my naive little brain was like, "What do you mean?" And I'd be angry. I'm like, "Can't you just tell me why it's wrong, or where, or how?" And this is where my skills really honed in, because the fact that I didn't know where the mistakes were, I had to go looking for them. I knew there was a mistake, so I had to find it. No idea where it was. So I'd find the mistake and then I'd fix it. But fixing the mistake didn't mean it wasn't just a mathematical. It was you had to then go and look at ATO legislation, the master tax guide, the legal database, and, just assess what was potentially wrong and then change it. So there was always a calculation involved, but there was law attached to it as well. I'm so grateful for that. So grateful for that. But meanwhile, still, my personal money management, hey, I was doing a lot better than earlier, but still just living week to week, just surviving. And then I got a bit more of a hunger. I wanted more. Cubicle life wasn't for me. I wanted to be helping people more. I wanted to be out in life, in business, helping businesses. So I moved away from the accounting public practice, and while I finished my uni studies, I started my own bookkeeping practice. Basically, I was just a freelancer. And back in those days, still no cloud accounting. I was driving around client to client, doing their books on their systems, MyOb, QuickBooks. Zero wasn't a thing. And then this is where I got a little bit more freedom, because this is where I learned that I wasn't working for someone else. I was responsible. And I was responsible for how much I charged. I was responsible for making sure I invoiced, making sure I got paid so I could live. And that level of responsibility, when you move from an employee to a freelancer, that can be scary. But I always was provided for. And, when my friends back in those days, where they were making $500 or $600 a week was the average wage, I was doing triple that. And so I always felt like I had more than enough. And then this is where I started increasing my savings, and I never wanted for anything. And I started to move out of that living week to week. And, I took myself traveling, and I just always had what I wanted. I never wanted for anything. And I was really proud of myself, because while I was doing that, I was studying at the same time and still doing a lot better off than all of my friends. And then I just got really ambitious, and I just wanted more. I think I cracked my first 6K year back in 2011 or 12, but I wanted more. And then I built my practice and I hired other people. I got more clients. I formed new collaborations. So I expanded my capacity, right? Not only was it myself working, I now had people working with me. And I built a bookkeeping and accounting practice. And that was exciting. And when I was running the practice, still a lot of responsibility. And, personal or interpersonal relationships with other professionals, other bookkeepers, other accountants, and, like anything, you have ups and downs. And it got to the point where I had my practice, we'd merged bookkeeping and accounting. I hadn't finished my degree because we moved, but I got accepted into the post-grad study, the Graduate Certificate of Public Practice, because I wanted my tax agent license. I mean, the sky was the limit and I was going to do anything to get it because I just saw how possible it was. It also came with a lot of work. And I was at the point of running a practice. We had 2 offices, 7 staff. There was a Gold Coast division, a Brisbane division, amazing people that I worked with, beautiful. Oh, I miss some of them. And I also was a CFO for an entrepreneur. By this time I was on the Gold Coast. I landed here, and I had that contract and I was running the practice. I was doing pretty well. But in my personal life, something shifted, and I don't know, it's like the financial decision-making process. Like, I was married, I had children, had so much premarital debt. We just wanted a great life and went into debt, and I got the debt, and it was just, I wasn't as financially secure as I was before. And even though I was making more, I was spending more. And I could help other businesses make lots of money, save lots of tax. But when it came to my own financial well-being, man, it was messy. And I think the biggest wake-up moment for me was after my separation. And I was like 2 subjects of finishing my tax agent license for the qualifications for it. And I was doing corporate fraud. That was the subject, funnily enough. And I was literally studying corporate fraud, and I felt like I was experiencing it at the same time. My eyes were opened. Because when it comes to money, people make decisions, and those decisions are usually self-serving. They're in the best interest of themselves. That's what this whole economy is based on. Commerce, profit, and what people do for profit. So anyway, my world crumbled. My marriage ended. And I was facing bankruptcy because I just couldn't afford to maintain the loans and be a single mama. And I did not have the energetic or emotional capacity to work anymore. I was tapped. So I was facing bankruptcy. And that was probably one of the biggest decisions of my life, because if you're a tax agent or a BAS agent and you file for bankruptcy, guess what they do? They actually strip you of your licenses. So I felt like in one foul swoop, my entire career just went down the gurgler. And I was so emotionally tapped. Like, I was in the red massively. And I just pulled the pin on the lot. I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go and sit on a mountain with some crystals and meditate, and the whole world can go fuck itself. And so that's what I did. I focused on my own healing and evolution. And I focused on my children, and money and business, I just didn't care for it. It didn't get me anywhere. And I realized that the reason that I was in the predicament that I was in was my own fault. I take full responsibility and accountability for that. But something really magical happened around that bankruptcy, because my little accounting brain was like, well, if I'm going to be filing for bankruptcy, I actually can't afford for someone to bankrupt me, so I'll just do it myself. How hard can it be? So I researched it, figured it out, filled out the application, and sent it all off. The funny thing is, I learned what bankruptcy is. And that was a pivotal moment, because when you go bankrupt, this is where they, the powers that be, remove you as trustee. And I was like, hang on a second, what? They put someone else in place to be the trustee of your estate. What? I just remember going, hang on a second, what? Hold the line. I've been in accounting for a decade, and setting up trusts, setting up companies, managing financials, like all of this stuff in the finance space. And there's this trust. What is this trust? I've never heard of a trust. And then that's when I learned about the Sedeke trust, about the straw man, is what people call it. I learned about our trust and our natural born credit. And I learned a lot of other stuff, which we won't go into today. And I learned the value in that trust. Whew. When you're 27, your Sedeke trust gets capped to the value of $231 million. That shook me. And it shook me for many reasons. I've got the legislation to prove it. Happy to share. Reach out. I'll share it. But that frazzled me, because not because of wow. I didn't go like, ooh, I want it. I was just like, hang on a second. So I've like struggled through my entire life, trying to make ends meet. All the while, there's 231 million sitting in some trust that I don't have any access to. What the actual fuck, man? What the actual fuck? So there was many layers, right? There was many layers to learning about money, wealth, currency. And when I look around, I just see that people are so concerned with surviving and money. It's at a very 3D level. It's at a very surface, material level. And the reason you're in that level is because there's other learnings or understandings or concepts that you're just not grasping. And that's okay, because the desire to make money to survive is a natural instinct. It's human. And you have to love the human part of you. But I think when everyone's stuck in this fight or fight survival, living week to week, it's keeping you in a consciousness that stops you from reaching higher states of consciousness. So when you're focused on money, getting money, making money, spending money, you have to look at your attachment to that, and like, where does it come from? And like, what do you truly truly think, believe, or feel about money. See, a lot of people think that money is currency. No, I'm here to tell you that it's not. Money is a store of value. Money is a method of exchange. Money is, well, in 1933, the gold standard was abolished. Money was no longer backed by anything of any value. But in, I think, 1966 in Australia was when the pound was replaced with the Australian dollar. And funnily enough, 1966 was the year the Bankruptcy Act came into existence. Things that make you go, So we all know that money's not backed by anything of any value. It's not backed by gold, right? When the bank loan you money, they're not going into a safe where they're storing all of their wealth and handing you their money. That's not what's happening here. So the notion of money being currency or valuable, it's just not true. And when you're living week to week and in survival, it's because of how much value you are putting on money and what it can do for you. What I learned in my journey with money is that it's actually got nothing to do with money. And this is why over all of the years, I very, very rarely talk about how much money I make. I don't even see it as like money that I make. Everyone is attaching money to value. Because when people are trying to get more money, it's because of what that money can do for them, what it can provide for them. And we need to let go of that attachment to money. Because I promise you that in a very short time, a couple of years maybe, the way that we exchange money, currency, is going to be different. And if you want to move with the transition of our economy and how it exchanges and the methods of value, if you want to move through that with grace, you have to detach from money. And it was funny, after my years of awakening and the money journey, it also connected with my self-worth journey and my spiritual journey and like all aspects of me. And things really shifted when I committed and I devoted to who I want to be in this life and how I want to show up and how I want to help people. And I even remember that transition out of public accounting and into my legacy. And that was a huge ego death. And it was like I was capped, right? For years, I was capped. I couldn't break through an income potential. Like I couldn't break through the 300-400K years. I did it so effortlessly, but I just couldn't get that next level. But I wasn't really trying. I was sort of happy. But when I look at the brick and mortar business that I was running, the practice, the staff, the costs, the admin, the management, like it was really not productive. I gotta be honest. So I wanted to move in more efficient ways, and I wanted to be able to give back in bigger ways as well. And I couldn't give back unless I had the resources. So I had to kind of make a little like devotion to myself, a little promise to myself that, all right, if I was going to let go of this way and step into a new way, what does that look like? Or who have I got to become? Or How have I got to show up? And this is where I moved away from money in its tangible sense. And I looked at currency in the intangible sense, because I knew that I had 231 million sitting in some trust that I didn't have access to. And if there's a withdrawal out of that account, because there are withdrawals out of that account, it then gets replenished. So hang on a second, does that mean it's like infinite? And as I looked at the research and I looked at how they're even creating money in our economy, I realized that it's infinite. Inflation is a never-ending cycle of infinite growth. There's only one way that it goes. There's only one way that it goes, and that's up. So I'm infinite. My currency is infinite. How do I tap into that currency now? I mentioned years ago cosmic currency. And this is a concept that's been landing for years. And I realized that my currency is my value, not the money that's in the bank account. So the value that I can receive is a byproduct of my currency, and my currency is the value of my energy. So when you want to increase your capacity to receive, you want to expand your capacity, you want to receive more, you need to increase the value of your currency. Are you with me? So we follow crown law, and crown law is like, you're the crown. And it's like your direct connection to God is through the crown chakra. Energy, God source, runs through you from the crown down through your entire body. And when I look at people with money blocks, it's within their energetic body, their emotional body, their physical body too. And basically it's like the currency that runs through your body, the energy that runs through your body, your energy, it's blocked. Like there could be like a blockage in the pipe so it can't freely run through. Or the energy is murky, right? So there's no clarity there. And we have to work with our value. So whenever I work with someone on their money, it always comes back to three things. It's self-worth, high self-esteem, confidence. Always, 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 always. There has never been a time that I have worked with someone on their money blocks and it hasn't come back to self-worth, high self-esteem, or confidence. And then I even look back on my entire journey and I can see how I couldn't make the money or I couldn't retain the money because I didn't have the self-worth. I didn't believe in myself. I could help other people make or retain lots of money, but I didn't feel like I deserved that. And when your self-worth, it's like a bank account, right? I was in the red. People were taking withdrawals out of my self-worth bank account my entire life, and I never deposited to it. So when I learned this and I started depositing, it felt wrong. And rightly so, because when you make a deposit into your self-worth bank account, you're going from a negative to a lesser negative. You're still in the red. So it feels weird. It feels off. It feels out of place. But as long as you keep making those deposits, you eventually will build yourself back up to the black. And then over and above. And it was that dedication and that devotion to my own self-worth that by the time I had fully tapped into my energy and my currency, it was effortless. And I was on mission, doing exactly what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, serving in the way that I wanted, sharing in the way that I wanted. And the funny thing is, I was so detached from money that I made 7 figures for 2 years and I didn't even know it. I was so detached and I valued everyone around me that I would just freely pay for whatever because God always provides. And it's like the person that goes bankrupt, they learn something really valuable. You can take all the money away from me, it doesn't matter, I can rebuild it again. And I didn't just rebuild it, I actually catapulted into a whole other dimension of wealth, currency. And it come back to the attachment. See, it's like when you're attached to money as a 3D material wealth in your bank account, you will only go so far. When you are attached to money as an energetic source of currency, you will only go so far. I see the people, money is energy, money is energy, money is energy, but then I see their behaviors and they ain't treating their energy very well. Leaks, blocks, murkiness. This has got nothing to do with anyone other than you. How you show up for yourself, for your family, how you show up in your work, whether you're employed, whether you're a freelancer, whether you have a business. It's what leadership skills you have. Are you in integrity? Like the laws of cosmic currency, I literally, like the Oracle deck landed probably a year ago and I still haven't got to it yet, but there's 100 laws of cosmic currency. It's universal laws, and it's when you're working for the good of all, when you're working for the consciousness of all, and not just for money. Not just for money. And the thing is, like, I don't even need to know where the next money is coming from. I don't care for that, because I know that whatever I do, wherever I go, I'll always be providing some level of my energy to help others in some way. But it's capacity and value. Expanding your capacity and increasing your value. And this is like, you know, your value increases over time. The level of value that you can give someone can be immeasurable. Sure, I get that. But we also have to be realistic in value. And this is where I see a lot in the coaching space that there's not realistic expectations or representations of value. Just because you've been in the coaching space for 6 months and you've made 100 grand doesn't mean you can charge someone 50 grand to work with. I mean, like, good luck, but there's a universal energy of exchange here and the law of reciprocity. And this is where I feel people really do need to err on the side of caution. And I've worked in accounting with financials, with money. Money has been physical in my hand. It's been digits on a screen. It's been numbers on a notepad. And one thing remains true. The numbers don't lie. And you can work out a value. There are ways to calculate a value based on the value of money and currency in the marketplace. And we have to consider that. Overinflated prices for under-delivered work doesn't fly in the marketplace anymore. And this is where I feel a lot of people are going to be held to that. People want more out of their money, especially as the economy starts to self-implode. And if you do overcharge for something, life will happen and it'll always come back into balance. This is why I call it hot air. People will expand and rise in all of the hot air, but then it'll deflate, and the higher you go, the further the fall. Money, wealth, and currency, it's such a nuanced topic. No one can put a price on your value. And the value of your energy takes into consideration a lot of different things. Your knowledge, your skills, increasing your awareness, your self-awareness, your relationships with self and others. So if you want to increase the money in your life, you've got to take a holistic approach to it. It's not just going, oh, I want 100K months. Okay, cool. All right. So let's just break that down a little bit. Let's work out, or what's it going to take for you to get to, okay, maybe 100K was a little too high. Let's just go 30K. Right? I want 30K months. What's it going to take to get you to a 30K month? And why do you even want that 30K month? And if you get that 30K month, what's the net profit going to be on that? So what's the percentage ratio of net profits on that? I don't care how much money you receive. I care how much you make at the end of the day. And it's not just making that at the end of the day, but what's the intention for that money? Where is it going to go once you've made it? And we have to be super clear around this stuff, because the flow of money is definitely going to change. And money wants to go through the path of least resistance. So we have to make it easy for money to flow. We have to make it easy for energy to flow through our body. And we also want to have money that is tapped into the greater good. Otherwise, I call it like dead money. I want to work with alive money. Oh my God, I did a live the other day about water and how purified water is dead water, and we actually want to be drinking alive water. Money is the same. Why do you think they call it cash flow, liquid assets, currency, banks? It's all connected to water. And the current money that is circulating our economy is dead money. It's dead. It's debt. It's a representation of the dead, your straw man, deceased, out at sea. I want you to tap into the living money. Because when you're tapped into living money and currency through your energy and the value of that, magic happens. Holy moly, magic happens. I guarantee you magic happens. You cannot refute it. You cannot refute it. Oh, some of the most magical experiences. It's always there. It wants to support you. And part of the integrity around the living money is also investing in the living, creating for the living, creating for the future. So if you want to accumulate your debt money and keep living in the past and paying back your past and living in that cycle of not enough or survival, you're in the dead world. And it's time to wake up and come to the living and realizing that there is so much more to currency than money. An advanced civilization does not require currency. This is something that came to me few years ago with cosmic currency. And a lot of people call me crazy because, my legacy, creating a world of liberated prosperity. They call me crazy, but it's got nothing to do with money and everything to do with advancing that way. I don't know how long it'll take. I don't know what it looks like, but all I know is that someone's got to hold the vision for it, even if I get called crazy. It takes resources to make these changes, but these changes are happening, and I want to help the resources land into the hands of the people who are making that change. Simple. So for me, yeah, it's about money. It's all about the money. Everything is about money. My whole life is about money and accounting and finance and currency and wealth, all of it, but on such the deepest of deepest levels. And I look back at my journey and where I first started and my self-worth, my self-esteem, my confidence, my growth, my value, my experience, my skills, my education, my research. And I know that in this moment, right here, right now, and any moment moving forward, that anything that I have is the byproduct of my currency, and I'll own it.